104.7 The K, Mike, the intern, the studio, Jay Stevens this morning. Dark Side of the Stream, episode 122. He's trying
What is
to.
that? What's that sound I'm hearing? Gosh,
You got to turn your mic on mute
it's not
first.
me this time.
Yeah, it is.
My mic is on.
No, turn your mic on off.
Gosh,
You guys ever hear the echo? That's
that?
because Jay didn't hit his button. That's now we should be
Now we
fixed.
good?
Dark Side of the Stream, episode 122. Mike, the intern, Jay Stevens in the studio. Jay's trying to tell me that we didn't land on the moon, which is
Just
the most insane
somehow
thing
we
I've ever
can't
heard.
go back.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
So stupid.
Somehow with better
It's-
technology, we can't go back.
The craziest thing. If I'm gonna call Neil Armstrong, he's gonna come hunt you down and beat your ass. All right, so we didn't discuss the moon landing in this week's episode.
We might
of
on a
Dark
future
Side.
one.
No,
At this rate.
maybe could be. Dark Side of the Stream, episode 122 this week was about the Pez Outlaw on Netflix.
What a great
Incredible.
documentary,
First
right?
off, Jay, great suggestion.
No?
This was a fun documentary, a really interesting story about a guy who you probably would have never heard about in your life. Had it not been for the toy collecting community. And that's essentially what this story is about. It's about a guy named Steve Glue from Michigan who was a machinist. He worked in a machine shop, hated it. He also had some
simple guy.
mental roadblocks, I guess you want to call
He
it.
was very
Definitely a little
simple,
bit-
very simple guy.
very simple, but definitely dealt with depression. He was bipolar. I guess you could say a little bit OCD in some facets. But when you start to meet some of these collectors, especially the one that was in where was he? He was in Eastern Europe somewhere, and he was talking about how collecting is a disease. And I, as a collector,
Yeah, you collect records, right?
he's not far from the truth. I've gotten better over the years as far as what I'll go for and what I'll spend money on because I'm honestly out of room. If I owned a record shop, it'd be a different story. But yeah, it is a disease, especially for someone who wants what they want and will do anything they can get. At one point, one lady who collects Pez says she dropped $11,000
on Pez
on
guys.
one
Yeah.
Pez collectible candy dispenser. One.
It's
insane.
It's
insane.
What are they actually worth? It's just like
let me ask
Bitcoin
you,
and stuff like that.
you-
What is it
you-
worth? What
you
somebody
don't-
will pay for it.
You're not.
I don't really collect much.
You
glitter.
like
I collect
toys.
glitter. I mean,
You like toys almost, right? You get a certain thing. Like you kind of just
gadgets.
You're a gadget guy,
gizmos, right?
and you always
But-
go after this is cool.
Yeah,
blah,
but I'm
blah,
not
blah.
like, oh, I have to have.
No.
a collection.
And you are a
Nah.
patient guy
Yeah.
because you're also not trying to spend a ton of money. What's the most you've ever spent on anything like this, like collectors wise? Did you ever spend a lot of money on a record, a baseball card, a guitar?
I have an autographed Peyton Manning jersey that I probably spent a little bit on. I have.
Why'd you go for it?
It was a signed Tennessee jersey with a picture of him signing it and everything. Like
You just were like,
certified.
I'm.
Yeah, I
picking
was a
that
big Peyton Manning fan back in the
Okay.
day, and I figured that he'll Hall of Famer one day. So I've had that. I've dragged that around for a long time. What else? I have some like platinum records, gold records, and autographed records, but nothing like crazy. That's about it. I didn't have to have stuff.
I've been really lucky in the
Yours
sense
is
that
records.
I've got a lot of really cool signed stuff, whether it's from the Chiefs or artists. I've got original Pink Floyd UK press, Dark Side of the Moon signed by the entire band. That's priceless to me. The Smile, which is Radiohead, I got those guys to sign a Hatch poster from Nashville. That's also priceless. Dawn of the Dead, the show poster signed by the entire cast. Huge movie for me. So those things, yeah. Records is probably the most expensive one I bought was Extremely Limited Sleep record, but I basically bought it for the cover because I wanted the cover. So in my mind, I looked at it as I was buying an art print that I would hang. But yeah, I mean, I still have a limit though. There's certain things that, I would love to have, but I'm not going to spend that kind of money on. Definitely not in the thousands for anything. If I come across it, cool. If the opportunity comes up where I can get something signed by someone I love, awesome. But I'm not as hungry, and I'm also not trying to make money off of it. You know what I mean? I buy records to listen to them. I listen to my records.
Right.
Some
of these people,
they're an investment.
It's a flip buy.
But
flip
that's
game.
how a lot of these guys looked at this whole game. And we'll get into the Pez Outlaw next. Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. "104.7 The Cave." Mike the intern back in the studio with Jay Stevens, Dark Side of the Stream, episode 122, discussing his pick this week, the Pez Outlaw. So go back to Steve Glue. He, of course, has some OCD tendencies, and he started
Struggling with
collecting.
money.
Yeah, no money, barely making it work with his family, living in a shack on some farm in the middle of Michigan. Hates his job, but then he started collecting cereal boxes and did it obsessively. And he had like the way I would collect records. Like, he had a file system of
Yeah,
all these
and
different
he'd go to the
cereal
trash cans
boxes.
and
Yeah,
get all the
dude, loved it.
boxes,
Go to
cut
recycling
them. Yep.
centers. Started doing send in the boxes for toys and prizes, and was getting just hand over fist money because he started taking these toys to collector shows and realized he
Selling
could
them.
start making hundreds of dollars doing this. He claims, which could be not completely true, that the whole one item per household rule change was because of him
Because he was
sending that stuff
exploiting the
in.
rule. It could
It's
be. Could
possible.
be.
But then once they started doing that, he was out. And he said that he had enough toys to go to one more toy show. And while he was there, he came across the Pez dispenser and was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And someone at that show said, you know what? If you're a smart guy
You want the good
and you want
Pez.
the stuff that's real good, you should go to Eastern Europe where they make them. And
Some
at this point, I
random
had no idea.
town.
Yeah, I had no idea how this worked.
He'd never been on a plane or something like that, right?
Yeah.
He didn't have a
Dude.
passport.
And
Yeah.
props to his wife and props to his
Woo,
son. And
man.
we'll get into that in a little bit. But him and his son essentially buy a ticket and they go to Eastern Europe just to find where this
Pez
factory
place.
is, which they end up realizing that it's printed on the Pez dispenser box. And so they find it, they go in there, give some guy some cash,
We want to buy some
and
Pez.
they're like, yeah, whatever. It's American dollars. We'll take it. Who cares? Here's your boxes.
Backdoor deal.
Here's your bags of Pez, like thousands and thousands of them.
Bags of Pez.
The reason why these were so sought after was because, and I didn't know this either, Pez USA is its own company, and then Pez International is everywhere else in the world. Well, Pez International would come up with these really cool ideas. They'd send them to the US and they'd say, it sucks. We don't want to do it. One of the things that they ended up getting was this thing they called the Bubble Boy, who was, I guess they only had they said at this point, 20 ever made. And it was the brainchild of the guy who ran Pez USA. They ended up saying, it sucks. We're not going to do it. But then internationally, they still made a couple copies. And Steve Glue's son actually was gifted one of these. Someone actually offered him $1,200 on the spot for this one Pez. And he's like, yeah, dude, I'm going to take it. It was a gift. That didn't cost me anything. So the other thing that was interesting to me is that legally, he cannot sell, or you could resell them as a collectors, but the Pez guys hated collectors because it was like they're undercutting what they're doing and they're giving a value, blah, blah, blah. It's kind of what you see in ticket scalpers and record collectors jumping in on limited releases and stuff like that. And the manufacturers in the US are like, this guy, we got to stop this guy. So, but the reason that he was able to go into Eastern Europe and bring back thousands and thousands and thousands of Pez at a time was because Pez USA's lawyers did not register their trademark with
Customs.
Border Patrol. Yeah. And so, the first trip they come back, Border Patrol takes them into a room.
Down.
The guy's looking through all these and he
thousands
goes,
of Pez.
You know what? If they're so stupid, they cannot file this trademark with us at the border.
Go for it.
You're
in, buddy.
Do it. And that's exactly what he did. And he made thousands and
He's
thousands
this hillbilly guy going over
to
Eastern Europe and just cutting deals, man.
Supposedly getting in with one of the execs over there. And
yeah, there was some shady. It sounded like some side hustles.
They had him on the thing, and he was like, "Nah, I don't know what he's talking
about."
All right, you don't know me. You don't know me.
Yeah, it was.
If someone ever says that to you, you don't know me. We'll get to more about the Pez Outlaw next. Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. Mike, the intern, Jay Stevens, back in the studio, episode 122, Dark Side of the Stream, discussing the Pez Outlaw in length. Again, he, at one point, he being Steve Glue, says when they're talking about his wife, because obviously at one point the rug got thrown out underneath of him. None of the Eastern European guys would sell to him anymore because they were getting pressure from the Pez USA guys saying, hey, this guy is screwing with us. Man. Stop. He wouldn't let him near any studio. He wouldn't let him any near factory. The execs who were his friends all of a sudden pretended like they didn't know him because it was their livelihood. And, that is what it is. So then at that point, he comes back and he just starts taking care of his wife, who I guess started having symptoms of Parkinson's, which is unfortunate. And it was really, that was the hard part, because it was just like you could see it in his eyes that he kind of realized he needed to grow up and be a man for her, because she let him do what he wanted as far as these schemes, these little things that he wanted to do, because she knew, and she said it, he was like a horse. And her being a horse trainer and a rider and all that stuff, she goes, you can't, the more you bring them in, the more they resist. So you kind of have to flow with them.
Ride.
That was a really good way to put it. And it really is a good
I mean, it was
relationship
amazing
story.
that he came from this basically a little farm town nobody to like an international smuggler.
Yeah, he still goes to Pez conventions now.
He's a legend.
The last part of this I thought was just so brilliant was, and he definitely kind of screwed himself in this regard.
He did.
But so after the Pez guys get all the Eastern European connections to cut him off, he's like, you know what, screw it, I'll just pay for them to manufacture my own. Pez USA's aren't doing these, so he starts doing all these like off colors, like the skull Pez USA would do white, he does a black version, different colors, clear versions, like all these kind of, he basically just changing it a little bit.
Puts all his eggs in that basket.
Gets about $500,000 and ends up making about half of that back. So he's about dead about
making bootleg pegs. Really, Pez really is what he's doing.
They called him the Misfits, and they said that at one convention he's out there I mean, that took some balls. See, that's the thing. Like the Pez guys were
at that point, you're scamming.
Yeah,
like, for sure.
And right in front of them. Like, it's like if you tried to set up a booth at a concert to sell bootleg AC/DC shirts. Like, you see those guys on the corner. They're out there selling half price.
But like right inside the show.
But if you like have the balls to go into the show and do it, they're going to shut you down like that. I mean, it can't do a whole lot about
that.
And again, if it's a couple hundred, then a big deal. When you're talking about like $500,000 worth
he
of
went
product,
all in, man.
It definitely had some balls. And they ended up, getting him. They ended up getting him. And he ended up losing like $250,000 on this thing. But by all accounts, they got a house. He put his kids through college, and was able to do something off of something that is just so bizarre. That
great story, man.
It was a great story. It was a very interesting guy. Props to his family and his kids. I mean, yes, was he riding the line with legality and all that stuff? 110%. Was it an interesting story? Yes. He's lucky he didn't get sued, but the Pez guys didn't want to go through that. So they got him where it hurt and got his money. And in the end, they won because he stopped doing it. But now he goes to conventions. Now he does
signs autographs
and signs autographs. He started a blog telling the story.
Pez Outlaw.
The documentary, of course, was made following that. And I thought it was a really cool story. They had that one guy at the very beginning of the documentary for Eastern Europe talking about calling him a loser, and is like, you're just making a documentary about a loser. This is so stupid, right? But it's like, what are you doing? What do you?
You won't even like. He's got a shed out
this
back,
attic where you got this hidden, crazy off-brand Pez stuff that you're doing the same thing he was doing, but just not on the same scale.
Wacky, man.
And it's like, what do you mean? He's a loser, but you're not. Come on, dude. What are you talking about?
What a wacky world.
It's just the collecting scene, whether it's baseball cards or Pez or records, it's wild. And we will give it our reviews and our, I guess, how many Pez dispensers next, as far as what we thought about this documentary on Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. "104.7 The Cave." Mike, the intern, Jay Stevens, back in the studio one more time to discuss the Pez Outlaw on episode 122. How many Pez dispensers would you give?
I give it 4 bootleg Pez dispensers.
Hell yeah. 4 misfit Pez dispensers all day. It was a phenomenal story. It was quick. I thought the reenactments were done well. The story is,
and he was an interesting character. I mean, you gotta love a guy like that.
You could literally tell the story in 5 minutes if you wanted to, but I thought the producers did such a good job.
It didn't seem stretched out to me at all. Some of these do. This was great. It was a nice, easy watch. My kid watched it with me. She thought it was great. Yeah.
So good. I actually did collect Pez as a kid. I had a huge collection of all kinds of stuff, but then as I grew up, I was like, The only thing I held on to was a Star Trek original series set of all the Star Trek characters in Pez, and I think that's in my office somewhere, but that's all I ever held on to. But it's because records had to take the place. As always, hit us up with your suggestions for what we should watch next week in Dark Side of the Stream. I've already picked because it is my turn. And we're going to discuss the documentary on Netflix called Gunther's Millions. It tells the story about a dog who's a millionaire.
All right, perfect.
And in the world of capitalism, that is the way it is. But it sucks when you see families and children struggling so hard to have a roof over their head and feed themselves when you got this dog that's literally got millions.
Just fun puppy.
Unbelievable. So we're going to discuss that next week, Dark Side of the Stream. Meet us back here every Thursday at 9 a.m. or 6 p.m. on Jay's show. You can stream it live, Facebook Live, every Thursday morning at 9 a.m. or on YouTube. As always, I'm Mike the Intern. This is Jay Stevens reminding you, we watch movies
documentaries
so you don't have to. It's Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave.